Hi, everyone. You're watching episode 86 of Yield TV. Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, and we are going to be talking with one of the true OGs of the NFT space, my friend Rizzle. So Rizzle is the co-founder of nft42, which is really an umbrella organization that has been involved in some of the most cutting edge NFT projects. So there's TokenSmart, the community, which we're going to cover all of this today, but just blows me away how forward thinking you all were in building this digital collective. There's Avastars, and there's tons of other projects we'll talk through. But anyways, Rizzle, welcome to Yield TV. How's it going?
Thank you, man. Great. Super honored to be on your show, man. And yeah, dude, we've been around since the start talking about all this when all the ideas were in its infancy. And dude, now, we're like pros, man. I'm coming on your show. You got this flashy intro. It's so dope, dude.
I know. It's funny because we normally talk through audio on Discord, and actually that's probably where we should start is so we got to know each other because I'm trying to think of who introduced us, but it was only back in February, maybe of 2020. We were in that weird phase in the US where we knew a pandemic was coming. Those of us in crypto were our friends in Asia were like, yo, you need to prepare, while our government failed us. And anyways, we were preparing for the Ethereal Virtual Summit. And anyways, I started to get to know you guys because you were running this, you were running the WHIP meetup. So anyways, Rizzle, talk me through what is the WHIP and how did it start, and how much have you guys grown over the last year?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's in a nutshell, it's basically a virtual event, but we started hosting them very early, within these blockchain-based virtual worlds that are built upon NFTs and use NFTs in them. There's a lot of people building NFT art galleries in there that, host native NFTs. And so, a lot of us were early on in this space when these virtual worlds were like a ghost town. And so we started, actually the pandemic really probably accelerated our project because we started hosting virtual events in the NFTs, in these NFT spaces for the NFT communities, just to sort of get together and talk about the cool stuff that everybody was doing at the time. And I mean, believe it or not, man, I mean, even a year ago, you could probably get a pretty good grasp on all the major happenings in the NFT space in one event per week or whatever. And that's sort of how that started, just sort of the big highlight show of the week on what cool stuff is going on in the NFT space. And COVID really ramped that up exponentially. And, before long, we were getting several hundred people at our events and layering in a lot of different types of content in these events, all NFT and blockchain based. So we started getting a lot of musicians and DJs who were creating music based on NFTs, doing sort of pre-party and post-party events for these what was basically a speaker circuit. We would have 4 or 5 projects or speakers up on the, virtual stage, and, rapid fire, and DeFi Dad has been up, maybe a world record, maybe 4 or 5 times at this point. He's been there quite a number of times, and just doing that, almost, a condensed version of what we're doing now, talking about the cool stuff that's going on. And everyone, a lot of them are hosted in crypto voxels. It gets really weird and fun because all of these, what you call wearables that you're seeing people wear, are also NFTs that you can create, purchase, and sell on the open market. So the concept behind these virtual gatherings quickly turned into virtual fashion shows, virtual music festivals, virtual auctions, virtual, we started doing scavenger hunts. We actually have a St. Patrick's Day scavenger hunt coming up on Wednesday, where people got to get some clues and find some shamrocks, and they win some NFTs for both participating and finding, I don't even know what it is at this point. We'll figure it out. But so it just spawned so many things, and TokenSmart, the community, there's hosts the whip in their Discord. We broadcast the audio, and it's also, the Discord is just much more like palatable of a platform for a noob to sort of get in on it. So, anyone from a phone can listen in on the whip from Discord. We pipe in the music to these virtual worlds from Discord, and then people can attend, virtually, in real life, virtually, whatever you want to call it, if they want to. And then TokenSmart has grown as a byproduct of that, because we quickly became inundated with projects that wanted to get on the whip, sponsor the whip, do the after party, do some sort of event, and we just got log jammed real quick. So TokenSmart as a community has quickly become a hub for all different types of cool NFT and like blockchain based projects to either do like weekly events or one-off events. Some of them are just Discord based. Some of them are also have like a location in, at this point, there's a lot of different virtual worlds that incorporate NFTs or are blockchain based. So it's really like a cool experimental community that loves to like tinker around with like bleeding edge tech stuff. And it's fun, man. I mean, a lot of them, just like yourself, have been here since like the very, very beginning when, it was just us. And now like, now it seems like you throw a rock and you hit a celebrity, right? It's just like, oh, Paris might be joining us today, or perhaps MC Hammer, or like, who knows? All of these people are like circling around the space right now. And it's very surreal, man. And in the meantime, I, get to chill with people who have been around and know the stuff like yourself.
I'm curious, as you've been watching the community grow, and as you pointed out earlier, the pandemic, we can definitely consider that as it's something that helped to catalyze or accelerate the growth of the community, because we all went from, I live in my physical world, I do what I want, I go to a bar or something, to suddenly seeking out more digital first interactions. I'm curious, like, do you ever worry that this community that you all have built, where it was like, I don't want to say it was a community of the misunderstood, but it's a community of people who were seeking a very special group of people who wanted to live this digital first lifestyle. Do you ever worry that, like, as the mainstream does come in, that it's like you'll see maybe like those that we would have shunned and been less interested in working with, that they'll come in and sort of like steal that glory of like what's been built? I mean to say, like, selfish, narcissistic types of, influencers, celebrities, not to say any of those in our space are that right now, but you know what I mean? So anyways, It's something I've wondered if you guys worry about. I've considered it a lot lately, thinking like, is this just going to get taken over and like licensed out by like some big entity like the NBA and the NFL, versus the digital collective of artists that I've like, grown infatuated with?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's honestly something I think a lot of us who have been in the space for a long time have given a lot of thought to. And I think a lot of us thought we sort of, had more time before we got to this point. I mean, I figured we were at least like a year out to like, sort of plan for like the mass influx of people. I think everybody sort of knew it was coming, but the extent to which it ramped up is, just unprecedented and mind-blowing and everything. And dude, yes, I mean, absolutely. You're already seeing it. I mean, what Elon Musk is like selling some music NFT now, and everybody, it's really interesting, man. The NFT community up until this point has sort of been like a very niche, like little club that everybody knows each other and everybody sort of looks out for each other within reason, reinvests in the space. And now we have like a lot of big players coming in who are, basically money grabbing, right? Like trying to take money out of this space.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say, man. I mean, you can see the future and how like NFTs are really going to underpin everything, like so many different things, right? Like ticket sales, collectibles, you can imagine, I was just in a Twitter conversation yesterday, like, you go into the grocery store to buy a food item and they're the same price, and one comes with a collectible NFT and one does not. Which one are you buying? NFTs are just going to be so pervasive that I think when the dust settles, there's going to be a lot of everything going on. I think like the bleeding edge tech people aren't going anywhere, because the people who are new to the space like are a couple of years behind us, honestly, and like really understanding the space. I mean, the people like you and myself and who have been here for a while have basically been like super fans and doing nonstop research into this space when it was worth nothing, right? Like just because we were like fascinated by it and just interested in the technology and seeing where it goes. So I think the money grabbing is an inevitable part of like the space expanding. But I think in terms of like actually like leading the progression of the space, the people who have been here a while are so far out in front of like any new, like very intelligent person coming in trying to understand the space. You just, it's like we've been going to, PhD school in crypto for a couple of years now. We're just farther ahead of people in terms of like what we know and where, how to take the technology where it could be. But dude, I like hate this shit, honestly. Like the money grabbing stuff drives me nuts. I feel like personally very protective of the community, because in my head, man, this is like an amazing NFTs and crypto in general is an amazing vehicle to like empower disenfranchised people, or empower like creators and artists who would otherwise never have a shot if they didn't like get signed by some big record label, or like, didn't get noticed by, Sotheby's or something like that. Like, here's an opportunity to bypass all of that. And so I think that still like continues to happen, and people are still able to come up with like innovative ways to do something like that. And I think there are going to be like a lot of crappy NFTs made for like a lot of spin up projects and like, money grabbing B-list celebrities who, to their credit, dude, I made this joke the other day. I'm like, there's got to be like a Discord server somewhere where like all of like the B and C list celebrities gather and like source information on like the next money grab for like the non-A list celebrities. Cause it seemed like all of a sudden, like every B and C list celebrity that you hadn't heard from in like a decade showed up at once, right? And it's like, where did all these people come from? And now, like, now we got the big dogs in the game and everything. But dude, it's been a fascinating progression of events. And honestly, man, I feel like one of the reasons I almost hoped we had another year is because the technology isn't like quite there yet for mass adoption. I mean, there's still a bunch of hurdles and like barriers to the average person. So I wouldn't be surprised if like this hype cycle gets like fudded down a little bit, once people realize like, hey, NFTs are really cool and everything, but if I want to sell a $5 one, I gotta, pay $60 in gas to create it, and that kind of thing. So I don't know, man, but it has been a wild ride up until this point.
Yeah, it's there's just so much to respond to there. I think what's caught me by surprise, we were talking about this before we went live, is that so I had been so focused on DeFi, and it was a very just lucky draw that I, through working with the Ethereal Virtual Summit at the time, basically started thinking more about, okay, so like how can we coordinate people to meet up and have an enjoyable experience, but we're going to have to do it all virtually. Right. And we were already struggling with like, how do we even do like a virtual summit online, which now seems very normal. Everything's being done as a virtual summit. So some of that got solved for, but I think what blew me away is it's the fact that, like you said, some of the technology just isn't there. Crypto voxels is, they're voxels that like, don't have smooth edges. But I would argue that the community that is there's this support of people who just don't care about that and are like, hey, I don't give a shit. Like, this stuff is getting better and better every day. my thing is that I can find a home here to interact with others. Decentraland blows my mind, like what they've got already built in there. And Somnium I've played less with, but still, like you look at these things and you go, wow, like look what these guys are building. And so at the end of the day, it's been about the same sorts of needs we have in the physical world, knowing others who we find some sort of like common ground with, being able to communicate with them, being able to learn from one another. And these are things that we seek out while being in a pandemic, especially. Like, I mean, I really have lost touch with a lot of my friends that I was seeing constantly before the pandemic. But weirdly, I think before we got on too, we were saying, I'm overwhelmed. I'm actually, by the end of the day, I'm emotionally exhausted because there's so much to engage with. There's so many I am across probably about a dozen Discord communities now, TokenSmart being one of them, and I can't keep up.
No.
So when by the end of the day, I'm like, I'm done. Like I went to a Charged Particles launch party with you guys. That was fun. Like I felt like I got the 30 minutes in that I would have gotten at a bar if there was some sort of party. I would have gone in, had a drink, and probably left. Instead, I sat there kind of comfortable at home with a beer. And so anyways, I guess my key takeaway from all of this is just that for those that are newer to NFTs, you have to just think about it as it's digitally scarce stuff that you own. Like that's all. It's something where there is a limited supply of it. It's something that you can claim as your own. There could be multiple copies of it, but it's not like the file on your computer that you can just keep duplicating. It's ideal that you're able to buy something that's maybe a single edition piece of art, or that you're able to get one of the Avastars. So anyways, I'm wondering then, Rizzle, like, what are you finding resonates with all these newcomers that you're meeting and are like joining the WHIP meetup and joining TokenSmart? What are some of the main questions they have as they're getting started?
You know what, man? It actually sort of goes back to the question you had raised earlier, man, which is like, how does the community look moving forward and everything? And, prior to finding the NFT community, I had been involved in crypto for a very long time. And like, I feel like a lot of the communities were really toxic and chilly and like, full of like rug pulling and people trying to like scam other people and everything. And that's like one of the reasons why I like really fell in love with the NFT community. And, I think some of it has to do with like the influx of artists and creators, like bringing like a different flavor into the space that aren't as focused as like, just creating projects and rug pulling people and everything. So refresh my mind. What I wanted to bring that back, and I was sort of somehow bring it back to this point.
No. What are some of the top questions you get for those that are newer to the NFT space?
Yes. So what we realized when we started doing these virtual events, man, is that a lot of the crowd is very interested in the technology, but a lot of the crowd is just looking for something fun to do. And we realized that we could create like really fun virtual events that sort of like are all NFT and crypto based, but strip all of that out of it for like the everyday person coming in. So like, probably like the beginning 10 minutes of this conversation to like anybody who doesn't know NFTs, they're probably like, what are these people talking about, with everything. But, in order to attend one of our events, in order to experience like a musician who is doing music-based NFTs, in order to hear about these projects, we've stripped it all the way down to it's literally, you just hop on either the voice channel in Discord, or you just click on the browser link to hop into the virtual world. You don't need like a headset or any like fancy gear or anything like that. So one of the major questions we get when we start getting people attending week after week are literally like, what are NFTs? Like, we've been having so much fun at these virtual events. We're in the community. If you hang out in our Discord channel, we've got like a tip bot that is, basically making it rain different types of social currencies on people throughout the events. And those, no one's getting rich off the Tipbot rain, but it does go into your wallet on Discord, and you can extract it. And if you come to enough things, it starts piling up. And so, our focus shifted a little bit from like, let's educate everybody about crypto and NFTs to let's create really fun events using this technology and then educate people on the back end of things. And we've done that like pretty successfully, man. I drink a lot of my own Kool-Aid, but our shit is fun, dude. I know you've been to a lot of it as well.
The Meta Olympics,
Yes.
actually here, while we're talking about it. So here's an example of what Rizzle's referring to. Like because it's hard, honestly, it's hard to explain this stuff, but then once you realize that, okay, this is the Meta Olympics, it's like the Olympics, but it's in the metaverse. And if we scroll down here to some of the pictures you guys had taken last, I'm gonna keep scrolling.
Probably a little ways down. We closed out the season a couple weeks ago while we're working on rebooting it. The Meta Olympics was basically, it was 10 weeks of competitions. We had every week sponsored by a different project in the NFT space. And each event was hosted in a different metaverse or place in the metaverse. So a decent amount of them were in different places in Crypto Voxels. We had one in Decentraland. We were trying to get into Sandbox, but they weren't quite ready for us. So we did like a modified thing. We had a couple other platforms involved. And so every week, there you go. People would gather. We got a massive Meta Olympic stadium. We paid a lot of money to Voxel architects to create this thing for us. We got a track around the whole thing. We've got a obstacle course, a maze, a spinning wheel of death. Lots of Voxel casualties throughout the Meta Olympics, and it was fun. We kept track of the points throughout the whole thing. But yes, this is like a great example of something that like you didn't have to know anything about crypto to participate. If you could like maneuver your way around like, a virtual world using the keyboard, it's not like, there you go. It's, like any other first person shooter, I guess you would call it, or first person game where you're, just sort of using the keys to walk around. And the games weren't complicated, but they were fun and they were goofy, and we gave away a lot of NFTs, a lot of cool projects. You saw like right in the beginning, there's actually crypto kitties littered around the entire stadium.
I love it.
If anyone wants to give our last competition a shot, it closed already, but there's I think like 3 or 4 crypto kitties were slightly different than the rest of them, hiding in the stadium.
I think what catches a lot of people off guard in this is, and what has like, I think what's accelerated beyond where I could have foreseen it growing to is just the fact that this mirrors real life so much more than I ever expected. Like you all have, so there's the communities that build in Crypto Voxels, you guys being one of them. And I look at this and it mirrors a lot of the constructs of the physical world. So like people want to build where other cool stuff is being built. Just like if you go to a cool part of Brooklyn, lots of cool restaurants show up around other cool restaurants. And so this like metaverse has already mirrored all of those, again, those human needs that we have, the desire to build something, to own something, to run a business in an area where others are running it. I mean, look at this. Like, is this Metacast? Is this the advertising that you guys have worked on?
Dude, I don't even know. That's just a billboard near our place. Yeah. I mean, it fits your point perfectly, man. That when we actually built this campus, the area around it wasn't quite built up the way it is now. But now people see a lot of people in the campus doing things. That's actually the whale shark maze. It's pretty dope.
Oh, this is the whale shark maze? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is. Why don't you explain more about? X this out so it doesn't so they can hear. I wanted to talk more about the significance of Beeple's work lately. So for anyone that's completely new to NFTs, and correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but what Beeple has been an artist who's been making art for over 13 years. The story behind him that really draws people in is he's been making art every day. Like he's gotten married, had kids, had every other thing that, happens to a normal person over the course of their life in 13 years. I think Beeple is probably guessing he's mid to late 30s maybe. But Mike is his name. Mike has been making this art, and it's just the story of someone making art every day and committing to it that really draws you in. And he was posting it on, places like Instagram, and then he discovered NFTs. Someone, I think, actually approached him. I never got this straight when he came on Yield TV and we interviewed him. But here's an example of someone who already had a genuine following of 200,000 followers. He's an artist who was making ends meet by doing lots of really high-profile work for DJs, making experience that you see on the screens, doing all of these computer graphics for people like Deadman. So I mean, this guy already was living a pretty accomplished, awesome life, but more recently, his NFTs have gone for millions of dollars. His art as NFTs has gone for millions of dollars. Can you explain why is that? This is what all my family and friends ask. They go, why is his art being sold for millions? Why did someone just pay $69 million? And I have my theses on it, but I'm curious, how do you explain that to people?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. I read a thing, and I can't, I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but it was talking about the rationale behind the purchase of Beeple's, artwork. And it basically goes back to what you were saying, man. It's the story behind it. And in addition to I guess part of the intent behind it was sort of cementing this story into NFT history as this, whatever it was that made this huge sale was basically going to be that thing that was cemented in NFT history. And so I guess Metakoven believed that Beeple was a good example based on what you said. This is someone who dedicated his life to his art and, has proven that it's not just, words and everything. And, I guess the story behind it, was what made it worth 69 million, man. Dude, I can't justify spending 69 million on a Beeple, but I think that's the gist of it. I mean, that's the story with any art, right? I think that's basically all it is. If you look at this and treat it as a real piece of art, then you could almost put any price tag on it, especially if you treat it as a revolutionary piece of art or a landmark piece of art for this technology. If the bets on Beeple being this generation's Michelangelo or something like that, I think that's sort of where it comes down. Dude, honestly, I also get the impression that the person who bought this, money isn't really a thing, and it's more about setting a precedent and making a spectacle out of it and drawing attention to the scene. So I think there's a lot of reasons beyond Beeple, not taking anything away from Beeple, but I think it had a lot of the right things going for it, including the art that, made it a great combination of things to double and triple down on if you believe that this is a historic artifact, I guess, to some extent. That's my gathering, but art is weird, man, right? I mean, we're going to definitely start seeing a lot more big money flowing into art. I mean, art is historically one of the most best vehicles for money laundering and everything. And so, I feel like the art scene of NFTs, NFTs has sort of all been lumped into one category for a very long time, but I feel like the art scene is going to play out very differently than the gaming scene, which is going to play out very differently from the music scene, the ticketing scene. Everything is going to sort of, move into its own like lane and path moving forward. But right now it's still sort of, we're all, clumped together to some extent.
Yeah, I think as I have become more involved over the last 12 months, I have found more and more that when you look at this stuff from the outside, just for a moment, I mean, if you know the art world already, actually a lot of it makes total sense. Like I don't think it's difficult for them. If you've been into like collecting anything like baseball cards, basketball cards, pogs, whatever, like it makes sense. A lot of other people, for some reason, they just can't reconcile the fact that it's a digital collectible. But like maybe they've just not been exposed to like how much a rookie card for Michael Jordan has gone for. And even then, like Michael Jordan is just, maybe that it's a bad example, I guess, because he's just so like, he's so just like beloved globally. So like, I don't know. I've found, though, I guess my point is this: as I've dug in deeper, I have not met many people. Actually, I couldn't even come up with one off the top of my head in the NFT community who are like, yeah, man, like I got in this space to get rich. Like there's so much upside on all of this. And like, but I could name a dime a dozen of people I've met like that in just, buying tokens, crypto in general, Bitcoin, Ethereum, any other community. Even as much as like I found that, I think there is a genuine community of us that like believe that building digitally native finance with DeFi is the future. Still, there's been a lot of like obvious upside that gets talked about there. I just don't find the same sort of community with NFTs, which is why it's been weird to watch the prices suddenly start to skyrocket. I'm like, okay, like what is driving all of this? This is just like insane to watch the prices, go up. So I'm wondering, what are some of the most engaging stories in when it comes to NFTs that you've been following lately? Like this could be new projects that you're really excited for. It could just be, in your guys' case, like, we've talked a little bit about the Meta Olympics, TokenSmart, Avastars. You've been working on this for a long time, so it's nice to see that like these OG projects are getting a lot of respect. Like Avastars in particular. Maybe we should cover that next before we talk about other projects. Can you explain what is generative art and what are Avastars?
Yeah. Generative art is basically art that is created by a computer algorithm. I mean, you put in a certain amount of information in the beginning, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to spit it out on the back end of things. And so Avastars is a generative art project that we launched almost a year ago, where it's similar to Art Blocks. Art Blocks is also a generative art project right now, but in Art Blocks, when you purchase an art block piece of art, you don't necessarily know which generative piece you're going to get. With Avastars, you can actually, on the Avastars website, scroll indefinitely and see these randomly generated Avastars. And then if you like one, you can purchase it. So that's like basically the gist of like the generative art part of it. What makes Avastars sort of like a historic OG project is that it's the first one of this level of complexity to put all of its metadata on the Ethereum blockchain. And so what a lot of people don't realize who are new to the NFT space is that most NFTs, when you buy the NFT, the actual NFT itself isn't all living on the blockchain. A decent part of the data is actually stored on a third-party website or IPFS. IPFS is like a pretty good solution, but in a nutshell, it's not all composed in the NFT itself. And so one of the things that Avastars did, which to this day not a lot of projects are doing, is putting the entire NFT on chain. So even if Avastars as a company disappears or goes bankrupt or like something happens, that NFT will live on in its exact form on the Ethereum blockchain forever. And so we were sort of ahead of our time with this concept, and it took the better part of a year for series 1 and 2 to sell through the community, which was good. I mean, that's actually what we were hoping for, but man, we caught this last hype cycle, man, and we had to turn scrolling off for a couple weeks to fix a couple things on the back end. We had like 3,000 of them left and turned it back on, and then like 72 hours later we sold through like the last 3,000 of series 3 and are hoping to get series 4 on soon. But the idea is that people use these, like the big thing with NFTs now, like outside of just the art ones, is to have some sort of function or like some sort of functionality behind them. And what you're seeing is a lot of people use these as their online identity, like cross platforms. A lot of people on Twitter are changing over to avatars. And it's sort of like, you see the same thing with punks. Not a lot of people can afford, one of these OG NFT punks that I think the floor price is like $60K or something like that. So I've heard avatars referred to as like the working man's punk, because they are like pretty affordable. They have the integrity of like a very historic OG project. And they're still like live, basically. We still have a couple more series to sell through of this generation before we move on. So
that is cool.
If you're not into NFTs, you're like probably like, these pictures are cool. Why do I want one? But if you nerd out in the space, and going back to what you were saying before, man, about community and everything, man, I feel like we were all drawn together very early on, not necessarily by the money. A lot of us were in here just as like a side hobby or like thing we were like really, really interested in tinkering around with. And I'm a byproduct of this, man. I've been like tinkering around with crypto and altcoins and NFTs for like almost a decade now. And then like finally saw my opportunity to like do something full time with it. And so, here I am. I mean, money is nice, don't get me wrong, but this was my like nerd love hobby that, I'm fortunate enough to turn into a job like many of us. And I feel like beyond money, like that's the feeling that really translates through a lot of like the OG community is we like, the money is cool, but what's even more interesting is what's coming next. Like what's the next new thing that, so-and-so is cooking up. Like I want to learn about that. And that's the exciting stuff to me.
Yeah, I'm looking through them right now. It's funny because like I always took these for granted, just because I saw you guys playing with them. I saw lots of people with them and wasn't really thinking twice about it. But that is a great comparison to like working man's punk, which it's funny because quite a few of them are already like up in price. I mean, I don't even know what's available even for sale. There,
everything's on secondary market right now until this. You're looking through the old pics of Series 3, which are cool, but Series 4 will look a little different. All the current ones are on secondary market on OpenSea. But that is the cool thing about them, man, is that like every single one of them that's on the market, someone had to hand select. There's no like, even though they're like randomly generated when you're scrolling through them, you have to actually choose one on purpose and mint it. So, of the 15,000 that are out there, someone's literally hand selected every single one of them, which is cool, man. A little effort went into choosing them,
It is. It kills me because I'm pretty sure. So I never understood what these were when I first got into TokenSmart. And then I remember, I think it was Jimmy said like, let me know if you want one. And I actually like, I just remember like I couldn't process like what even that meant. I'm like, oh, there's lots of these. I thought people had created them individually, and that there were just a number of you that were really creative to have done that, versus understanding now like how easy it is to work with. That it's like, okay, these are generated, and then you pick what you want, and you can buy it. So, oh man, it's a little regret there over the last last.
Get you, man.
I know, right? Like after this, like, here you go, man. Hey, you gave me the bald-headed guy with the same colored eyes. This is, man, that one's not worth anything. No one's ever going to take it. Okay, so what other projects are you really interested in right now? Like there is there's so many projects in both. I've been saying DeFi and NFTs all fall under one umbrella, but like what have you been like, that's really cool, and when people understand this and get it, this is going to blow up in the NFT space?
Well, I mean, I feel like NBA Top Shot really like blew the roof off of the NFT space. That's like definitely, I mean, I've played basketball my whole life and I'm a big basketball fan. So that's like that I like appreciate that. Dude, I also made more on NBA Top Shots in like a day than my entire like basketball card collection from when I was a kid. It's like still in my attic is worth, it's like worth $100 or something now. Anyway.
Wait, can I ask you one quick thing about Top Shot then? So I also, we've talked about this, like I love the NBA and I thought Top Shot was cool. I guess like what do you make of what's happened though lately? Like, I mean, clearly I recognize there's been such insane demand and activity there. And I think they very openly declared, we never thought that we were going to grow this quickly. But like, I guess, so that's on Flow blockchain, which, is different than nearly every project I think we've talked about is on Ethereum. So, Ethereum being more focused on security and decentralization and moving towards scalability to get us away from these terrible gas fees as quickly as possible. Flow sacrifices that for scalability. However, like we know right now, like all of these Top Shots are in a closed, centralized platform. I guess, is there, I'm wondering like, how do you as a longtime collector think about that? Because like, I would love to see Top Shot succeed. I mean, they've already like grown like crazy, but there's no doubt like they've been dragged through the mud, and maybe even rightfully so for the problems they have with getting people's money back out. Like, does that mean that we should be pricing these, for less? Should we be discounting NFTs that are not like Avastar, where you guys could all go away, but I still have access to my Avastars?
No, that's a good question, man. And that actually plays into your previous question in terms of like what's like the hot stuff right now and what is everyone looking at right now. And I feel like that's basically like layer 2 solution or alternative blockchains is like everything right now because of the gas chains. And so everything that I've had my eyes on is like basically what's working and what's not working across the board. I mean, and every single one of those things has its advantages and disadvantages, including Flow. I mean, when it's tough to know like what the situation is with NBA Top Shot in terms of like when you're using the platform, what is like a hindrance of the platform, like NBA Top Shot, and what is like a hiccup in the blockchain, and what is accountable for what situation over there. If I didn't know the team behind NBA Top Shot, I would feel a lot more nervous about the product in general. But knowing that this is like the Dapper Labs crew that's behind like CryptoKitties, and they hold a significant amount of clout in the space. So I feel very confident that they are not only in it for the long haul, but also like working on these situations. I can't say that like the way that they've handled every single circumstance is like necessarily like the best way, but I do like generally have faith in the team and the project that, they'll get it right eventually. But yeah, man, I mean, who knew that was going to explode the way it did? But it also has like onboarded a lot of people who, had no idea what NFTs were, but did know what the collectible sports cards were. And so that's how like some of my buddies got like interested in NFTs and everything. But it's until like Flow opens the doors basically and becomes like an open ecosystem, which, word is that's imminent. I saw something OpenSea is going to start like selling Flow tokens. There's a couple other projects that have released or are about to be released on Flow. So, in theory, that is happening in the not too distant future. There's a few projects on the Matic network or that have like recently transitioned to the Matic network. Those are cool because they're not like on, what's essentially a closed blockchain right now, like Flow. That's not the right way to categorize Flow, but you know what I mean. It's just like you're saying, money stuck or whatever.
It's just the difference between there's Bitcoin and Ethereum, which focused on, again, decentralization and security, and there's been the sacrifices of that scalability. Luckily, with Ethereum, because of the number of applications that we use, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that layer 2 is about to explode. We've on Zapper, we're about to release a bridge that lets you move your money into and out of L2s like Matic, or now it's called Polygon. So that'll be available soon enough. Optimism, when that becomes available, XDAI. One of the issues is just that this is all new, and a lot of us know, like, oh, I just moved my tokens into an L2, but a lot of other folks are like, what the hell's an L2? I'm just trying to use one of these blockchains. I didn't even know that it got this complicated. So, I will say this, the one takeaway from everything with Top Shot for me was it does really help to get really active in a community if you start to put more money in, or if your money grows. And it does help to, this isn't going to scale in the future. It helps to be able to interact with the team. So, right now, I've just been blown away by how they've grown. But I mean, I've been wondering, is the demand for Top Shots, is that sustainable amongst all the other projects? Because I mean, geez, there's so much money that's locked up in Top Shots right now. So of all the projects, I don't know what we'll see draw down eventually when we move into a less bullish market. But man, Top Shots is just cost. It's already priced a lot of us out. I'm definitely at this point pretty much priced out of it. So anyways, we can move on to something else. I'm dragging you through the mud with
no, dude, I could talk about this all day, man. This is fun.
What other projects though are top of mind for you? What else are you excited for?
I don't know, man. I can't say that there's anything off the top of my head that I'm really, really excited for. I'm internally, because I work with them, excited for the Series 4 release of Avastars, just because we blew through the last one so quickly. Dude, I've been doing a lot of tinkering around with layer 2 solutions. The Wax blockchain is also very interesting. They're similar to Flow in the sense that you can, there's minimal to no gas costs when you do any transactions. It's possible to, for example, we just did a NFT food drive through TokenSmart in collaboration with a guy named Love Handles, and a lot of money. But what we wanted to do was sell food NFTs, NFTs with just pictures of food on them, basically. But we wanted anyone to be able to contribute. And there's no practical way right now to make a $5 NFT on the Ethereum blockchain. Or, I guess you could do it on a layer 2 solution, but that, and I agree with you, man. The layer 2 solutions, once you get set up, they're great. But just like you said, man, there's a couple extra steps in there that really push a lot of people, out of that. The alternative is going to a different blockchain like Wax or Flow that people aren't as necessarily familiar with. But anyway, so we went with Wax, and it went pretty well. And so, I'm currently interested in how do we, let me back up, man. When I got into the NFT space, it was full of artists and creators who had no other opportunities to really get their stuff in front of people. And so the opportunity for them to be able to create an NFT for pennies and sell it for $5 just to do it and be able to get their art out there was an amazing thing for so many artists. And because of the way that the space has scaled, we've really gotten away from that opportunity that was out there for a lot of creators who just don't have the amount of capital to dump into their, passion to, take a flyer on 120 gas minting feed, and cross their fingers and hope this thing sells. Some of these layer 2 solutions and alternative blockchains are now opening these doors again for these creators who, are just trying to get the ball rolling for themselves, or just trying to dip their toes in the water. So, It seems like Wax is it took a lot of knocks in the beginning because of various things, but at this point they seem to be doing that properly. I mean, there's like a lot of like low cost NFTs on there that are cool. I like found some artists on there who like I'd never heard of before, but they made like really cool art, and I picked a few of them up for like $5 and $6 each, and it felt like 2019 again on like Known Origin, where like you could cruise around Known Origin and find like a diamond in the rough for like $10 or $15 or something, and that kind of stuff is super fun for me.
Really interesting. I didn't realize that. I remember the name Wax, but I haven't looked at it in a while. What about are you aware that you can mint NFTs for zero gas on Mintable?
Yes, I believe it's passed off to the buyer eventually. I think OpenSea has done something like that as well. So they've essentially like allowed you.
Oh, yes, that's cool.
But that is cool, right? That's a workaround. That's good.
That is, it's really, because we had Zach on and I never dug into that and could understand it. But all I knew is that I would, if anyone's an artist out there and they watch this, go to mintable.app. It is the ultimate hack to what we just explained, where you still get the access to the incredibly large, vibrant community of NFT collectors on Ethereum, but without having to pay the gas, which is beautiful. Like Zach was basically saying, he's like, you can get started for $0, which is what we need, and then now they've got ETH in their wallet, and now they can, start to accumulate what they need to maybe do some other creative things. What about fractionalized art ownership was something that even before I was paying more attention to NFTs, I was excited about. So Masterworks, I am not endorsing them, but Masterworks I thought was cool because Masterworks.io, it doesn't have anything to do with Ethereum or NFTs or any blockchain. But the idea was that, how would you like to own a part of an Andy Warhol? You would probably, most of us could never afford that, but you could own a fraction of it. And so they use all the traditional, tools needed in finance to basically turn a piece of art into like an IPO, and that you are buying shares of that. So what I'm wondering then is the B20 project, which is Metacoven. He bought all 20 of Beeple's single editions from the Beeple 20, which was I think on Nifty Gateway. So he buys all these pieces, which is first pretty epic that he pulled that off to be able to buy them all. But then he now builds this project and issues, I think it's 10 million tokens. So if you own the B20 token, you own whatever fraction of the total project. So I thought that's a really cool project. I'm curious, are you seeing anything else like that? Like, I've been dying to see like something like Masterworks, but be reinvented with like what Metacoven did with B20. And maybe this is a good time too. We could talk about the whale token, which kind of is it, but it's kind of not. So,
yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Actually, I mean, Whale Shark, I believe, was one of the first people to sort of introduce that concept, where he's basically going to like get a bunch of high-end NFTs and lock them up in like the whale vault and create a token that's associated with the value of those NFTs. I mean, here's the thing, man. I mean, I don't know like how you really tie the token value to the NFTs, other than like just sort of saying it's tied to the NFTs, or you know what I mean, or like if you were to do something, if the coin does something, you were to do something correspondingly with the NFTs. There may be a lot going on in the back end that I don't know, to be completely fair. I don't have a vault. Yeah. My vault is sort of like, a hodgepodge of like random NFTs that I've collected that no one wants fractionalized ownership of. However,
we can show it while we're talking through this. There's here is, in case anyone's interested, go to whale.me, and then aside from the beautiful website,
very interesting concept.
Yeah, here's and he's got an Avastar in there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, you can start to dig through and see all the pieces of art that he selected. And there is something interesting to me about the fact that you have Whale Shark, who is if not the largest collector. I think Metacoven has proven he is the largest collector of NFTs. But Whale Shark might be second then in line.
Yeah.
And he just has such insane insights into curating this stuff. I mean, like, I think his track record speaks to, you know, his abilities. So like, I just thought it was cool, the idea that it's like, you can hop in here and you can start to gain exposure to this vault that holds all these pieces of art. I don't understand what's the difference between this and an actual index. And to be quite honest, I think it's because we're in this sort of like gray space right now of like how are regulators trying to understand and look at this stuff. But yeah, you can see here 322% increase in valuation of the vault just last month. By the way, to full disclosure, I do hold this token now, so take it for what it's worth. Maybe I'm a little too excited about it now that I hold it, but I thought this was a really cool example of being able to do what DeFi was designed for, like to be able to actually to be able to participate in a peer-to-peer digital finance infrastructure. But in this case, it's cleverly been implemented with NFTs. You know, here, like I couldn't afford probably all of these NFTs, any single one of them, but it's cool that I can gain exposure to it through Whale. How about though, I want to talk though more about, can you talk about the Whale community and like it's very similar to, in my opinion, to the way that you all have done it with TokenSmart, where you provide, you provide a lot of value, like you provide certain events. So like, how does that work with the Whale token?
So yeah, the difference, the Whale token is tied to the vault in some ways, but is the B20 token, I believe that's the only, and I could be wrong, but I believe that's basically the primary purpose of the B20 token. The Whale token is sort of like an ecosystem, and the Whale community has a lot of different like ways you can earn Whale, spend Whale. There's a lot of different purposes for it that aren't necessarily tied to the vault. The Whale community does Whale things, not like really Whale things, but a lot of their stuff is like Whale branded or like sponsored by Whale or like the Whale community event. And so, they have taken the angle that, that their community is going to really be centered around this token and the ecosystem that this token creates. The difference between TokenSmart is just sort of like a melting pot of like all of these projects. It's not really hinged by, even though we have like a social token that we throw around, the events and everything aren't centered around that or aren't hinged on distribution of that or spending it. It's more of like a gathering place just for people to learn about like cool stuff that's going on in the NFT and crypto community. So much like Whale community is as well. I mean, they certainly have like awesome events and bring in people to do stuff like that. So there's certainly some overlap between the two communities. But there's number one, enough awesome stuff to go around that we could all be doing round the clock stuff if we wanted to.
Right.
But yeah, their focus is definitely on building out this Whale ecosystem in the context of pulling in other events and cool stuff going on, and we're just sort of letting people, regardless of their affiliation with anything, come in and pitch their project, get roasted, do an event, whatever they want.
Yeah, I think I was looking through the Whale community Discord, and I mean, God, there are, in terms of events, I'm seeing there's one today. There was one, there's two different events today. Then there's Poker Madness, which happened, that's Tuesdays at 7 p.m. 100 Whale prize pool. Whoa, that's a pretty big prize.
Yeah, man.
Like I have found two different communities where I'm like, okay, between TokenSmart and Whale, it just blows my mind. Like everyone is living in Discord, and you have these vibrant communities with lots of, participation. I mean, all you got to do is go in and you can see people replying in all the comments. I mean, there's no ghost channel in these discords, and it's a part of the NFT narrative that I think a lot of people miss on the outside. Mm-hmm. And so when someone, I was asking you earlier, like, how do you explain, someone paying 69 million for Beeple? I'm like, you're missing the fact that like these are hyper engaged communities, that really like they love storytelling at the end of the day, and there's a lot of great stories here. Some of those stories are the stories of what they're building right now as a community, but some of them, it's about, in Beeple's case, it's about just the dedication of someone over the course of 13 years. That being said, I guess I would warn people though, like, be on your toes. Like, we're probably going to see quite a few, like, like you said, cash grabs emerge, just because there's so many people that I think are here because they share like a common passion of, let's say, art, NFTs, gaming, whatever, collectibles. And so sure, like I wouldn't put it past someone to be able to fake that, to say, hey, I'm here also for the art. Like, I love, and again, it's a very opening and welcoming community. Yes. And like, I think that is something that a lot of DeFi protocols could learn from. The best DeFi protocols mirror those characteristics, those traits, but many others could learn from, like, the more inclusive you make it, the more you think about your beginners, the more you think about how to take them from A to Z. That is what gets people, to stick around, because they learn from you, and now they feel like, for me, even if I never did anything ever again with TokenSmart, I felt like I learned so much about NFTs from the community. So like within a month, it was like, it turns you into a super evangelist because you feel like you've seen the light through the community.
Dude, I feel like people probably underestimate how small this space was, like, a year and a half ago or so, right? It was like me, you, and like 8 other people or something, right? And it was so exciting, man, because anytime anyone else like sort of found out about our like little secret club here, it was so exciting. We were like, hell yeah, who cares where they're from or what they're all about? Let's like help them out. Here's like all the tools that you need. Let's get you set up. You know what I mean? Let's show you how to do all the things. Yeah. And so, it was by nature, like very early on, by like the very small core of people there, like, who were just super fans of the technology and what it could do. It was just always so exciting every time someone new found out about it, which I think is why it's like so easy for like the influx of people to leave like a bad taste in, some of the OGs' mouth, man, because like, we spent so much time and effort like onboarding like everybody to get to this point. And now it just seems like, and it's not like malicious, man. And it feels that way sometimes, but it's very easy for like someone to just hop in and do a cash grab. Rarible is pretty easy to figure out. You don't need to talk to like the OGs to like do a little Google foo and like figure out how to do this thing. And then you circumvent like all the hard stuff that, and the groundwork that we've been laying this entire time. So, no, man, it was small, man. And up until like very recently, it was still pretty small and still had that same vibe. Like, yo, we got so-and-so knows so-and-so, this musician, they're hot right now. They figured out NFTs and want to do a thing. And so everyone's like, yeah, help them out. Yeah. And, up until like, a month ago or 2 months ago, that's what it was all about.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even talk about Blau, like the fact that like, he had this like insane, NFT sale, and he's just one of many. There's a lot of, Rack has always been one of the biggest proponents and really like early educators of using Ethereum-based tech, which in most cases relates back to NFTs at least at this point. And he was on an NFT like it was like a 40-minute sort of like documentary that they did on the Defiant recently. Really fun, overview of the NFT space. But like he was saying that it's been like a month since the whole music industry is now talking about NFTs, and the fact that agencies are thinking about how to like use them because they see that they're going to be cut out, and they're trying to figure out already like how to sign contracts with artists so that it says that they can basically take ownership of that they issue. Well, I've got one more question for you, and we should probably wrap up. Is what do you think is next? Like, I'm curious. Like, what is something that you know to be true that works really well that we haven't seen as many people start to understand when it comes to NFTs? And this is probably more. This is unrelated, but like something for me that I've started to hypothesize is coming is I think that personal tokens, creator tokens are about to probably blow up because I think NFTs opened the doorway, and it was like, hey, if you have a following, here's how you can engage with your community through NFTs. So next in my mind was creator tokens. But anyways, like, yeah, curious, like anything related to NFTs that you think is like really going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we're very close to NFT people being able to individually like spin up contracts for themselves, basically, like individuals being able to like, drop NFTs on their own website, import some sort of mechanism. Same thing with like a social currency. We're going to, even now with like as decentralized as we are, there's still like a lot of middlemen if you want to like do these kinds of things. And I think those will still exist because people will always, be interested in, getting their stuff on larger platforms and everything. But I think we're going to soon see a lot of people sort of going rogue, much like Joy did. Joy's basically, had enough of a following to do his own smart contract on his own site. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. Dude, I think honestly, the term in a decade, man, no one's going to know what an NFT is because it will just be the way things are. Like it's going to underpin everything. We're going to pull out old video games in front of our kids and they're going to be like, wait, you mean I can't sell this sword? Like, what is this junk? Like, it's just going to be the default way that everything is moving forward. And I think we're like rapidly approaching that moving forward. I have a feeling like a large chunk of the population is going to be using NFTs before they even know like what an NFT is, and may never even know what an NFT is. It just becomes like the way things are done for a lot of different, platforms, agencies, businesses, and it just underpins everything. The technology is too revolutionary to not underpin everything at this point, and which is why I'm so like fascinated in like what layer 2 solution is going to survive. Is ETH 2.0 going to potentially solve some of these problems? Is it all going to end up being some hodgepodge of like alternative blockchains, Ethereum, and layer 2 solutions that are just streamlined by one, app or protocol or something like that? I feel like we're rapidly approaching that point, but in the meantime, it's still like the wild, wild west with what's going to sort of take precedence.
Yeah. I especially resonate with this idea that we won't be talking about NFTs. It'll just be a part of, everything that we do. Just like when we talk about, I bought groceries or clothes or anything. I mean, basically, I buy more online than I buy, at local stores, and that's after us making a concerted effort during the pandemic to buy more locally, just because we want to support, small businesses around us. So it's one of those. It's definitely like the best parallel I can think of is, that's what we're looking at. Every athlete, every artist, every musician, every person who has a small group of people who believe in them, small or large, they're going to be able to monetize that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I know like right now we've talked about like the stupidity of certain cash grabs right now in the space, but like at the end of the day, I say let adults do what they want. If they, if you have a a following of 200,000 people on TikTok, I think you should be able to monetize that. I don't think even that it requires you to do ads the way that we've seen it done with like Instagram influencers. And I'm sure there's some repeating of that happening in TikTok. I think that you can just, do the simple thing of like, what's the name of the subscription site that everybody uses? That's
Patreon or something.
Patreon. Yeah, this is just the next evolution of Patreon.
Yep.
I've always thought Patreon is incredible for what they've done to empower people that just do stuff and want to be paid for the value of their time. But that's what I see with NFTs is it's a way to it's just a way to, well, NFTs, creator tokens as well. They kind of go hand in hand here. It's a way for us to live in a digital world, a digital first world, and to think about the scarcity of that and what is the value of that, and to transact in that digital peer-to-peer, finance world, which is essentially DeFi. So, well, I want to remind everyone they should check out, this is the short link to get into TokenSmart, right? Yeah. Yep. Discord.gg/NFT. That'll take you into the TokenSmart community. That's really like, if you're new to NFTs, you should just hop in there because you'll learn so much, and there's so many events. We also mentioned the whale community, another great one that you can hop into. You do not need to hold the token to start to learn and absorb information there. Follow Rizzle at NFT Land, and then there's NFT Smart, which is the TokenSmart community. And then also, we didn't even touch on this, but there's the TokenSmart Podcast, which, like, if I was gonna start today learning about NFTs, I would just listen to every episode. You might have to. You might have to pause in between quite a few of them because there are some very funny episodes in there. It's not like it's all hardcore NFT education.
Keep it fun.
Yeah, got to do. Oh, and then the WIP. Make sure follow. It's the WIP, WIP, work in progress. The WIP meetup. I think is that it?
That's right.
Correct handle. Follow that on Twitter, and then you can join at 3 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. Those are the meetups in Crypto Voxels. So. Rizzle, anything else you wanted to share before we go?
No, man. I mean, just what you're saying, man. It's going to be everywhere. NFTs are going to be everywhere to such a nauseating extent. You're going to get so sick of it, dude. Just like supporting the small businesses. You're going to get your small business NFT at each one you go to. And once you get 10 of them, you'll be able to redeem it for some dumb thing. All these sports teams are going to have all their own collectibles. If you collect all of their players, it's going to unlock some goofy thing. If you have a certain amount of ticket NFTs, from the last season, all these things, you're going to get so sick of them so quickly. But
it's like going to replace this part of our life that, we've all like just accept it as like, this is normal, like we all grew up with coupons, like I would never, think about a coupon in a store, but I mean, I remember my mom clipping coupons from like a newspaper and that was really normal, but like, there's something that's a high utility sort of NFT that I think anyone immediately gets. But it's like, just think about all the stuff that you own. Like if I live in a digital first world and I have an avatar, I'll need clothes, and like if I buy a digital piece of land, like why not have a digital guitar, that sits in my digital living room? And I'm classifying all these too as digital, but like really, like we'll be past that. If you spend more of your time in the metaverse, that's just where you end up living. So I think actually the craziest thing about all this is by the time I'm a grandfather, I believe that we will be looking at a Ready Player One type of world. There will be communities of people that will live for very low cost that probably could start out as like digital communes, where you live and you essentially you focus all your time on the joy of what you find in the metaverse, but meanwhile you are still a physical human being who needs to eat and go to the bathroom. But those sorts of costs can be reduced, especially if people are like, I'm just going to live in I'm going to live in a 100 square foot room because I don't really need anything else right now.
You don't need any stuff, right? You don't need, it's amazing. I mean, we're doing an event on Friday with Godfrey Mayer, aka Boombox Head, who like in VR chat has an entire recording studio, like with all of the tools that you would have in a regular recording studio, and doesn't need I mean, I'm sure he has the physical stuff somewhere, but like literally the recreation of all the physical stuff. So, exactly. No stuff, man. You don't
Are they still doing, I've hopped in there a few times with them, once for a CoinDesk panel. So I was wondering that I need to get back in touch with
They're
them.
so awesome, man. They were so far in front of everything, man. They were like, way ahead of everything. It's amazing. I'm glad that they're finally getting their recognition. It seems like Jin and Godfrey are like, starting to get solicited for a lot of advice, and well deserved, man. They're OGs for sure.
What is the name of their TV studio again?
Oh shit.
I can't
remember it off the top of my head, man. I might be in there on Friday though, so I'll let you know.
It was Boombox Head TV studio. If anyone's wondering what this is, just go to.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember like what it is, but it's all in VR chat, right? I mean, you're in
a green screen, man, to like superimpose scenes behind your avatar. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's so like it's very meta because you get in there and you're sitting there on pretend virtual couches, whatever. It's real to you when you're in it, but you're sitting in the studio. It looks like a TV studio. And then, they'll put green screens. So you're in the metaverse, but they're putting a green screen behind you and making it look like you're somewhere else. I mean, it's really trippy. That's one place though, where you do need, I've only gone in there with a headset.
Me too.
Right? Okay, good.
But no, I think you can get in there with a browser. It's like, I mean, it's not quite the same experience. I think you can get in there with a browser.
Highly recommend get an Oculus. It's worth it. So, hey man, I'm gonna hit the outro video on this. If you have any questions, we'll be in a green room in a second. But reminder everyone, subscribe at tv.zapper.fi. This is the 86th episode, so lots to learn in there about NFTs and DeFi. And then tomorrow, coincidentally, Layer 2 is always a part of the conversation. We're going to be talking with Anthony Sassano about Matic, which is now Polygon, and talking about just the state of other Layer 2s and how quickly we should be there in the near future. But other than that, make sure you try Zapper at Zapper.fi, and you can track all your NFTs in your portfolio. We are using the OpenSea API right now, so just heads up, we don't catch every NFT, but we do track most of them through the OpenSea API. So open up Zapper.fi, connect to your Ethereum wallet, and you can track it all there. So, all right. Well, everyone, have a great day. And Rizzle, thanks so much for your time, man. Bye, everyone.